Okay. Hello everyone. My name is Hoel. I come from a consultancy company named Meta Consulting. I work as a Java backend developer for the most part. And this year I wanted to get up to speed with modern web front-end development. And so I started to look at things like JS and stuff like that, and I asked a coworker of mine, what do you think about these things? And he said, that stuff is old. You should use ECMAScript 6, React.js, and you should also use a bundler. So, these are some of the buzzwords that I came over in JavaScript. You may be familiar with some of them on the back end, but there are some that only are relevant for web development in the browser. And I'll cover them in the next slides. ECMAScript. ECMAScript is the specification for JavaScript. It's the standard. And JavaScript is the implementation. The latest final specification is ECMAScript 6. It is a great, what do you say? It's a lot better than the previous standard, ECMAScript 5. However, browsers only have full support for ECMAScript 5. So, what do you do then? Well, you could use a transpiler. A transpiler is a tool that converts source code written in one language into source code in another language. And in JavaScript, you can use the tool from Babel that transpiles ECMAScript 6 code into ECMAScript 5. You can also use a transpiler to work in other languages, such as Dart, CoffeeScript, GuruScript, and ScalaScript, for instance, and transpile that into ECMAScript 5, which the browser understands. And if you start out with React.js, you might notice that they talk about this transformer. But transformer is basically just a transpiler. So why they call it a transformer, I'm not sure, but maybe they needed a cool new nickname for it. You have also in CSS. CSS is a pretty decent language to style your web pages. But it can become somewhat difficult to maintain when it grows in size. You could use another style sheet language, for instance, less, that gives you more maintainable style sheet code. And you transpile that to CSS, which the browser can understand. And this is called a CSS preprocessor, but it's a transpiler. Another tool that is relevant in the web, minification. These proper variable names and spacing can make up for good readability, but is completely irrelevant for the browser. So why not just use a minification tool to trim those down to the minimum and save bandwidth? Sounds like a good idea. When I first started out with front-end development some years ago, we didn't talk a lot about testing, and there were no test ways for JavaScript. But then again, JavaScript was kept at the bare minimum. But now it's gotten a lot better. You have test runners like Karma and test frameworks like Jasmine, which is the Java equivalent of JUnit and Spock. And also, you have something you don't necessarily want to run your test in a regular browser, because that would just steal your attention and be a little annoying. So you would preferably use a headless browser, which is basically the same but without the graphical user interface. You have another kind of tool here that you run on your source code, and it aids you in gives you hints on writing better code and problems you may have with your code. The Java equivalent would be to run code inspection in JUnit, or have the source code run through a Sonar server. One such tool in JavaScript is ESLint. It has ECMAScript 6 support. Now then, we have some tools we mentioned, and yeah, to apply to our source code. So it is a good idea to automate it, and we can use build tools like Grunt and Gulp. They require some configuration in order to know how to build your stuff. Kind of the equivalent of Ant in Java. And when you are ready to deploy your application, it can be convenient to bundle it like you would do in Java. You would create a jar, or you would create a var file that contains your application. This is a bundler tool in JavaScript. Two such tools in JavaScript are Browserify and Webpack. Webpack is actually a lot more than just a bundler. It is also a build tool, so you get 2 for 1. The Java equivalent of Webpack would be Maven or Gradle, kinda. And so, when you have run your JavaScript code through all these tools, you end up with something that didn't look like your tool. How do you debug your source code? How do you debug it? Well, in JavaScript, you would use a source map. It enables you to see your original code while you debug your Java application. Kind of like when you're running a debugger in Java against a Java process. Yeah. And it can become quite a lot of tools after a while in JavaScript. So a good idea is to use use a package manager, like Node package manager, and the backend equivalent would be like Maven, Homebrew, apt, RPM. It's very easy to use. Yeah, and so there are a lot of good, obviously, resources on the web if you want to learn more about these things. Here are a couple of two of them that I really enjoyed. The first one really has a good introduction to Webpack. It's a free ebook, and the second one is the Babel homepage, which has good resources on how to get started with ECMAScript 6. Yeah, that's about it for me. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Mats. Here you are. Hope you like it.